tracking how you sleep, then you're actually able to produce better results because you know what's working and what's not working. And Dr. Saunders has said for a long time, if you want to lose weight, some people will find this hard, but weigh yourself. You will see results if you weigh yourself. But if we're talking about the holidays, staying on track or actually knowing your priorities will actually help you get through some of the hard times because you know what you want. And one of the things I was thinking about is I love to walk, and walking after a big meal, like on a holiday, it's like my body automatically knows what to do, even if it's just a 20-minute walk after dinner and I'm not getting a 30-minute walk in the morning. It's just my body remembers, oh, let's digest food, let's relax, let's get those endorphins. So just even getting back into something for a short period of time can help if it's not your full workout or exercise schedule.
Hello, everyone. What's really funny is I remember a long time ago, Kanye West came out with a song and it was, uh, You're My Chick-fil-A. So every time, and Joe and I, when that came out, I remember this was, I don't know, it was this year, a couple of years ago. I'd always start the webinar and it'd say live on Facebook. And Joe and I would have this little banter back and forth with that song. And I still, every time I do it, I think live on Facebook, you're my Chick-fil-A. Like, oh, guys. That's why people memorize things with songs, like
Yeah.
to a beat or a rhythm, because you don't forget it. So funny. So hello, everyone. Welcome. Speaking of Kanye West, I remember in the last election, I had shared like something funny that said, hey guys, I don't think Kanye is going to win this thing. I hate to be a downer, but it was when he was running for the presidential election, which was just crazy. All right.
Look, we have someone from Colombia on today. Hello, David Earl Brown.
And Ronnie is back. Hello.
Which
All
part
right,
of Colombia are you from, David? Mountains, ocean, middle?
all right. Getting Facebook ready here, guys. Give me a second.
All right.
Dr. Saunders, would you mind giving us a disclaimer before we get started today?
Okay, so I'm not responsible for how you feel or what you do. And so what this webinar is about is general information for a general audience. It may not apply to you specifically. So make sure that you take whatever information we give or I give or any of us give and apply it to yourself properly. And you may need a professional to help you with that.
Perfect. Guys, we have a really good topic today. We're going to be talking about beating stress during the holiday, how to keep our holiday stress-free. Doesn't that kind of sound like, what could you possibly say about that? Let us know in the chat how the holidays feel to you. This time of year, is this an overwhelming season or is it difficult? Do you feel stressed? And that can depend if you're a family, maybe that hosts people or you travel, or maybe there's gift giving involved and finances are tight. There are so many factors. I even think anymore trying to prepare meals for people who eat so differently can be overwhelming also. So let us know in the chat how you're feeling coming into, well, we've already had Thanksgiving. How did that go? For my family, we celebrate Christmas, and so that's coming up. That's a really big deal. We have the New Year. Just lots of time to be stressed and eat incorrectly. And so that's what we're gonna chat about. We're gonna dig into those a little bit today. So Sheila is here. Hello.
I know when I have to entertain, I have to have someone who is keto. Then I have someone who's celiac. So you have to have only meat pretty much, then no gluten, and then someone who has no dairy and no garlic. So I have to have something for everybody. Pretty much hits all the major food groups and garlic. And that's me a lot of preparation.
Yeah, for me, garlic is a major food group too.
It's number one. Yeah.
So, typically when you guys, if you're having people over, did they bring dishes to share? Or, Cheryl, for you, for example, are you doing all of the food? Maybe people are traveling and they're not able to bring food, or how does that work for you?
Some people bring food, but let's say the main thing is a turkey, You can't have garlic on the turkey. You have to make sure it's gluten-free, so no dressing that's has any gluten in it. So some of your main dishes just have to be accommodated for other people. So different types of potatoes for different type of people, some with dairy, some without, you know, just so.
Yeah, that's a lot. And the mental load of that can be very stressful.
Mhm.
I was laughing, there's this little meme or something going around, and it was talking about, for example, I have kids that are in middle school. And so it's like, during the most stressful part of the holidays in December, you also get an email from the school that says, here are all of the dress up days for every single day at school. And please bring these things. And it's like, oh, no, more stress, right? But that's what we're going to talk about. We're gonna pick Dr. Saunders' brain here. We're going to share some ideas. We want to hear from you too. What has worked for you, so that you don't end up in these stressful situations? And if you do, how do you handle it? Because I think what Dr. Saunders has said, a little bit of stress on your body is okay. Working out is a stressor. That is a hard thing. A little bit of that is okay. Maybe a little bit of stress isn't terrible. It's when it lasts too long that I think we typically get into trouble. So let's see here. Someone said we're cutting out. Is that true for everyone? I hope not.
Yeah.
Ronnie says Christmas has not been a good holiday for me, except when I was young. I'm often a bit depressed, probably because so much has changed the last 10 years or so. I don't get stressed since I don't usually host anything, but I just bring something easy. And that is a big deal too. I think we're kind of entering into this season where, and Dr. Sutters helped me here, maybe a lot of people do run into depression during this time of year.
It's actually very common. It's a very common problem for people to be depressed through December and then on through January. And part of it is the sunshine, the change in sunlight. If there's less sunlight hitting your eyeballs, then you actually get something called SAD, seasonal affective disorder. It's not always a disorder. Some people just get sad.
Yeah.
and don't necessarily have a disorder, but some people it's a disorder where they can't get out of bed and they can't function. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to make dinner, but I can't make dinner for, I just don't feel like it. It becomes a disorder when it prevents you from doing your normal functions.
Let's talk a little bit about the role of vitamin D in that. Is that the first line of defense, I guess, if you're suffering from that, or what would you recommend?
There is so much more benefit to sunshine than vitamin D. Vitamin D probably doesn't change the mood very much. I've looked for that. I have a brother who lived in Forks, Washington. And that's on the Olympic rainforest on the very farthest west coast of Washington. And they get, I don't know, some 120 inches of rain a year, which is 10 times what I get in California. And it's like there's clouds most days of the year. And he ended up like with like major depression. Like it was really bad. He had to move to Boise, Idaho, totally across the state of Oregon into Idaho, where he gets more sunshine, where he could feel normal. The sunshine hitting the eyes, it gets your circadian rhythm working. It brightens you up. It makes life better. So they make, actually, you can buy sun lamps that are full spectrum lights that can shine on you when you wake up in the morning to get you up and get you going and go, okay, I can take on the day. Because the light itself in your eyes and then the sun on your skin also affects you. There's what's called chromophores in your mitochondria that are sensitive to infrared light. And they turn on. So your energy systems turn on with the sunshine. So there's a lot of things that affect, and vitamin D by itself probably isn't going to fix all those.
I have found that I try to keep my sunglasses off now when I'm outside or driving in the car. I'm trying to like absorb as much of this sunlight as possible, especially I'm in South Dakota and I feel like a lot of times, we don't have a lot of sunny days. For the most part, we have sun, but I'm trying to do everything I can to get the maximum amount of exposure as possible. Roy said that I found that buying a Thanksgiving dinner kit from Safeway made it easy, made me look like I knew what I was doing, totally fooled her that I cook, my fiance. Had a less stressful mealtime together. That's awesome. I like that.
That's a
Good
great idea. Yeah. Yeah. Fool them.
there is no shame in that at all.
No.
That is great. That's called wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay. Ronnie said I was a PE teacher. In the US, we were inside the whole winter and I would get really depressed and finally realized it was because I wasn't outside with no sun. In India, where I taught, we were mostly outside or in a covered area and I was fine.
Yeah, makes a difference. It makes a difference.
Yes, very interesting. Okay, good stuff, guys. We're going to dig into some of these things. There was actually a Home Cures That Work article that talks a little about some ideas to keep your holiday stress-free. And so we're going to share some of the things that were shared in that, and then we'd love to hear your feedback as well. But one of the things that was recommended was to stick to a routine as you enter into these holidays. And, and I think everyone's routines are a little bit different, but let's talk about sleep and working out. I feel like those are probably really big, or exercise. How do those play into really limiting stress over the holidays, Dr. Saunders?
Okay, so we talk about the 6-10 reset, and that means you stop eating by 6 p.m. and go to bed by 10. And then having that regularity keeps your adrenal functioning well. So your adrenal glands have to give you a circadian rhythm. And if you're very irregular, then they don't work very well. Now, if you are on a very regular schedule all the time and you go off your schedule for, a little while, a couple of days, you travel somewhere or do something, having had a very regular schedule gives you resilience and more ability to tolerate the changes. So people who are erratic in their schedule don't have resilience. And so they don't bounce back from changes to their schedule, from jet lag and those kinds of things. So when we talk about the 6-10 reset, if you are on a regular basis, you're going, okay, I go to bed with an empty stomach by 10 o'clock at night. That's my regular schedule. Yeah, sometimes I'm traveling and I can't do that. Sometimes I'm at somebody's house and I can't get away and I'm not going to get home till 11 o'clock at night or whatever. Things happen. You're going to a party. That's okay. Do you know Sachin Panda, that did research on this, looked at the rats that were strict on their schedule all the time versus ones that were ad libitum. They were allowed to eat and stay up as long as they wanted on 2 nights. They got 2 nights a week to party. And you know what? They did just as well as the ones that did it 7 nights a week. So you don't have to be completely obsessive about doing everything right. But if you keep a regular schedule, then it will allow you, for those times when you do go off your schedule, you'll have more resilience and you'll bounce back to it pretty quickly because that's your norm. So then the other thing you mentioned is exercise. And I wish I could emphasize exercise. That is big. And I was reading a book called Live Strong, Stay Strong, something like that. Anyway, Dr. Lyon has a book on staying strong all your life. And one of the things she talks about is that even while traveling, if you're in an airport, then you're doing squats, or you're walking up the stairs. You maintain your exercise regimen on a daily basis as best you can, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. And she said, that's what gives you resilience too. It allows you to veer off of your norm and bounce back pretty easily.
Great. Tell us about your guys' routines. I'd love to hear that. You can comment in the chat. Let us know what your daily routines are. Are you good? This is interesting because I've been tracking my own sleep and my consistency, and it's not always, it's not 100%. I think it's better now than it's ever been. But life happens, and sometimes you're up late one night, and how are you guys doing with that? I'd just be curious to learn what you have found. And then exercise. Everyone has kind of their own thing that they enjoy. And I think it's fun to learn what other people are doing. It gives us ideas too. If you're someone like me, I like to mix it up. I can get quite bored doing the same thing every day for a long time. So I'd love to hear your ideas for that as well. So please share that in the chat.
One of the things you pointed out is that by tracking how you sleep, then you're actually able to produce better results because you know what's working and what's not working. And Dr. Saunders has said for a long time, if you want to lose weight, some people will find this hard, but weigh yourself. You will see results if you weigh yourself. But if we're talking about the holidays, staying on track or actually knowing your priorities will actually help you get through some of the hard times because you know what you want. And one of the things I was thinking about is I love to walk, and walking after a big meal, like on a holiday, it's like my body automatically knows what to do, even if it's just a 20-minute walk after dinner and I'm not getting a 30-minute walk in the morning. It's just my body remembers, oh, let's digest food, let's relax, let's get those endorphins. So just even getting back into something for a short period of time can help if it's not your full workout or exercise schedule.
Yeah, that's good. Another thing that is recommended to avoid stress for the holidays is to plan ahead. And one of the things that years ago someone had recommended for me is if you're really trying to eat healthy, it's okay to, Cheryl mentioned this, it's okay to tell people that you're trying to eat healthy. They'll help you to stay on track too if you tell people. But also someone had said, like if you want to eat some protein, or you want to eat fiber, for example, if you're following our Healthy Heart Solution Kit, eat before you go. Most of the times, a lot of not that you can't eat when you get there, but eat your healthy things at home, the good stuff that you need. One, so you're not overeating when you show up there, and so that you're not eating all of the wrong things when you get there. I think you feel better knowing that you're getting in your good stuff at home. So that'd be my words of wisdom for planning ahead in that way. And actually, yeah, I guess this is here too. It said, try maybe even eating just a small healthy snack before you go. Staying hydrated is huge. Let's talk about that a little bit. Dr. Saunders, how does being dehydrated affect us?
Dehydration is not enough water in your body. And there's actually 3 different ways that happens. One is not drinking enough. And that is kind of rare, unless some people don't have a good thirst mechanism. And as we age, people tend to have less of a thirst mechanism. And so they don't know they're dehydrated very, very well. So not enough water is one. So drinking enough water, that's enough, but not too much. Because number 2 is not enough salt. If you don't have enough sodium in your diet, then you're not going to be able to hold on to the water that you drink. So you'll drink and then pee, and then drink and then pee, and then drink and then pee, and then you just go, I'm not holding on to any of this water. People tell me sometimes they come in and they say, well, my mouth is dry and I need to drink all the time. And so why is somebody's mouth dry who's drinking all the time? Drinking a gallon or more of water a day, and yet they're dry all the time. Well, that's usually a lack of sodium. Sodium is what allows the water to stay in your blood. That's what keeps your it's called extracellular fluid in your body. If you don't have sodium, you just pee it out, and then and you actually lose some sodium in the process. So drinking too much water and not getting enough sodium in your diet can cause dehydration. And you'll get the same symptoms of fatigue and weakness, and you stand up and you get dizzy, and you feel off because of dehydration. The third kind of dehydration is potassium. And it's actually not that uncommon because potassium is hard to get. Supplements of potassium only have 100 milligrams, and you need 4,000 a day to get just an adequate amount of potassium. And so you have to get it from food, because if you take a lot of potassium, it damages your intestines, so you can't take large doses of potassium. So the way to get potassium is from food. So where do you what has potassium in it? Well, fruits and vegetables, but it's not a lot. You can get 800 milligrams of potassium in an avocado, and that's pretty good. But most foods, you're talking 40, 50, or 100, or a couple hundred milligrams of potassium in an apple, for example. So to get 4,000 is going to require a whole lot of food, right, to get up to that. So depletion of potassium. Also, if you're drinking too much, you can be depleted of potassium. And that's your intracellular volume. Your cells are shrunken down like raisins, and they don't function very well. And so you still have the same issues of fatigue and weakness. And I feel like I want to go to bed, and I feel like, I can't do that much. So 3 different kinds. Mark, which one?
We have a note here. Ronnie says, I've heard that if you wait until you're thirsty, it's already too late.
Yeah, they say that. And for most people, that's not true. For older people, it sometimes is true. It's already too late. It's not too late. If you're thirsty, drink water. It's just fine.
So let's talk a little bit about this. So let's say we're gathering with family or friends for the holidays, and there's salt on the table. Is salt good or bad?
Oh, salt is really good. It is so important. You can't function without it. Salt is really needed. And besides that, a good functioning kidney can handle 40 grams of salt a day. You could live on salt pork and water and do just fine. As far as can your kidneys handle it. But the problem is not the sodium. And that's what for years everybody said, oh, the problem with like high blood pressure and heart disease and all that is the sodium. It's not the sodium. The problem is the lack of potassium. So those have to balance. If you start wasting, you don't have enough sodium, you're going to waste potassium too. You have sodium potassium pumps. And that's what the way the system works is like aldosterone holds on to sodium and gets rid of potassium. So if you don't have enough sodium, you're going to get rid of potassium. You've got to keep your potassium levels up, to keep your intracellular volume up, and that is a key to maintaining your blood pressure, to maintaining your hydration, and to keeping your sodium normal. So the problem isn't really too much sodium, it's not enough potassium. So it's okay to use salt, but I've actually had one person who has an adrenal problem. I switched him to a salt substitute, which is potassium chloride instead of sodium chloride. And so he uses salt substitute. It's actually a mixture of magnesium chloride and potassium chloride. It does not taste like salt. It's kind of salty, but it's not the same. But he's okay with it. And you know what? He's doing really well. He's keeping his potassium levels up, and he's good.
This is interesting. I haven't really heard that balance between the salt and the potassium, or the sodium and potassium, but it is reminding me of a previous webinar we did where we were talking about keeping our omega-3s and omega-3, 6s, and 9s, I think is what we were talking about, right? Aren't we talking about the whole omega-3, wanting that to be in balance with omega-6? Is that correct?
Yeah,
and it's reminding me of our same discussion where, there's good and bad and they can work together. We can balance those out. But here's another question. What's the difference between this table salt that we often see, maybe in like white table salt versus maybe your Himalayan salt?
Okay, there's actually very little difference. You get some micronutrients, some minerals in the Himalayan salt, and it's usually pink because there's a little bit of iron in it. it's not a significant amount. I mean, think about you're shaking little teeny bits of salt on there, which is mostly sodium chloride and has a little bit of minerals in it. And it doesn't significantly add to it. What's really interesting is I was looking at a study from Israel where they started using reverse osmosis to purify water. So they're taking seawater and pushing it through a membrane to filter out the salt so that they're getting pure water on the other side that has no minerals in it. And people are actually getting deficient in minerals. Magnesium was one that was a common deficiency. You know, when you pump water out of the ground, there's always minerals dissolved in it. When you take seawater and run it through a reverse osmosis filter, you're filtering all the minerals out, all the sodium, all the minerals. So it does affect you. And if you look at the literature from nutritionists, they'll say, it's minimal, it's nothing, it's useless. You know, okay, it's a tiny amount, that's true. But over a long period of time of using salt, I don't know, we get those big Costco bottles of salt, and I use pinches at a time, and we maybe there's 6 of us in the house, and we use one of those every, I don't know, year or so. And so think about, the sodium chloride there, but all of the other minerals have become part of my diet as well. So I don't think it's nothing. I don't think it's nothing. The table salt, the white table salt, they actually heat it up to like 4,000 degrees and burn everything off of it. It's pretty much, it's processed, and then they put silicone in it, silicon dioxide, so that it doesn't cake up and in the humidity. Yummy.
All right, well,
you know, silicon dioxide, that's, you ever see those little packets that you get in with like food and stuff? It says do not eat. Those little teeny packets, that's silicon dioxide. That's what they put in there. Some of them are oxygen absorbers. Some of them are humidity absorbers.
Sure. Interesting. All right. Well, if you're using that salt, might be time to switch. There are a lot of options for salt out there, by the way. Lots of different colors even. So I'm going to assume colors is going to be better than white.
Yeah. So one of the things that came up as I was talking about filters, the carbon filters don't take out the dissolved minerals, so they're actually okay. So things like the Brita filter, that's a carbon filter. I have a carbon block filter on my sink because we have to filter our water. It's just not very good anyway. So yeah, carbon filters are fine. It's the reverse osmosis where if you get reverse osmosis, often they'll have a little mineral packet you can put in for flavor, but it also has some minerals in it.
Oh, sure.
What do you think about Berkey water filters? I think that's the right name, Berkey.
Yeah, the Berkey is a carbon. They're a carbon block, solid carbon filter, and they're great. We have a Berkey. We can take our yucky pool water and dump it in the top, and it filters out, and it comes out, like perfectly clear and clean. So I think they're great.
Been using one for years too. That's what we have at home. Okay, so how much sodium should we be getting daily is what Sheila's wondering.
Okay, so I don't know that anybody ever counts and keeps track of it, but some people, they'll keep a food diary and they put it in your computer or in your phone or whatever, and it'll tell you how much sodium you're getting in a day. So the recommendation is around 4,000. However, there's a really interesting curve of remember I was showing you the curve of the mortality rates to the amount of various things in your diet or vitamins or whatever. Well, there's a salt mortality curve, and the optimum level seems to be not 4 grams as recommended by nutritionists. It's actually 6 grams, 6 to 8 grams, 1.5 to 2 times what is currently recommended is best. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, if you're counting, around 6 to 8 grams a day is really good.
Alexander asked, what about iodine?
Oh, iodine's wonderful. Okay, so that's a great question, because I have a lot of people mistakenly think that because they're getting Himalayan salt or sea salt, sea salt, that's got to have iodine in it, right? Wrong. Salt does not have iodine in it. So what happened was 100 years ago, they realized that all these goiters, and there were a lot of people in the United States with goiters, and goiters, the thyroid gland gets really big. And I don't know if you've ever seen one. I was at somebody's house a little while back, and I'm sitting at the dinner table, and this girl's talking, and I'm looking at her talking, and I go, there's something wrong with her. And I realized she had a mass in her neck that was moving with her Adam's apple. And I'm going, and I said, you have a goiter. She goes, how do you know? I said, well, I can see your goiter. And she's like, oh. Anyway,
We didn't know.
they didn't know. So anyway, there was like, goiter was a very common problem. So somebody said, how are we going to get everybody to get iodine? Because there's no iodine in our soils. So somebody came up with the brilliant idea of adding iodine, which is a salt, to salt. So they have iodized salt, and they would add this, the iodine, to the salt, so that people can have that salt, the supplement essentially of iodine. And so people mistakenly think that all these other salts, guess what? If you get canned food that's really salty, no iodine. If you go to a restaurant, no iodine. If you get real salt, sea salt, kosher salt, Himalayan salt, no iodine. It has to say iodized salt. And if it says that, then it is, because it has to be added to it. And even then, they add very tiny amounts. So then after they iodize salt, then other nutritionists started saying, well, you shouldn't be eating salt because it makes your blood pressure go up. And so nobody got iodine anymore. And I've seen several cases of goiter recently. One yesterday, a multinodular goiter. And I asked, did they tell you to take iodine? And she said, no. In the 3 years that she's been dealing with this goiter, no one ever said to take iodine. But that's the cure for it. All you have to do is take iodine and it goes away.
Wow. That's sad. That's really sad. I didn't even tell her to take it. Okay. More options for reducing stress. One of the things I was thinking about too is even breath work, meditation, prayer, starting your day off with those things, I think can really help you, of course. And we've talked about those in some of our other webinars. But whatever your calming, focused, higher power practices are, I think are really important to implement in your day, especially before you take off and head out to do whatever you're going to do. Another one that I love is to take your time. And so let's talk about eating. This is a discussion that I have in our home actually right now, eating quickly versus taking your time and really chewing your food. What are your thoughts about that, Dr. Saunders?
Okay, this is really interesting. So I used to be in the Air Force. There's something you didn't know, right?
Here we go. Add it to the list. Wow, I'm going to write a book about Dr. Saunders.
So I was in ROTC in the Air Force when I was in college, and we would have dinners, and there was a specific protocol etiquette that you would take a bite, put your fork down, and count to 32, like chew 32 times, swallow, and then you could pick up your fork and take another bite. I thought that was so ridiculous at the time. I'm like, well, that's really dumb. I hate that. But what came out of that is just thinking about slowing down, putting the fork down and not shoveling more in before I even swallow that, shoveling more in, then before I swallow that, shovel more in. Because that's what I'm used to eating. When I was a kid, that's what I did. And so it made me stop and think of of taking my time to eat. And gosh, I am the slowest eater now. Everybody else is done. All my kids are done. Everybody else is done. And I'm still there. I'm only half done and I'm still eating. Sometimes they're up and leaving. I'm alone at the table while everybody else is gone. I'm left alone because I haven't finished eating yet.
Yeah.
Yes, taking your time to eat is really good for you for a lot of different reasons. One, it's less stressful. And when it's less stressful, that means your digestive juices work better. Number two, as you're chewing your food, you're mixing it with saliva. Saliva has enzymes and emulsifiers that help you digest your food. People who take swallow, just eat and swallow and don't chew, they don't mix it with saliva, so they don't digest it as well. So taking the time for that. And then sitting quietly and relaxing does help you digest. Your stomach works better, and your pancreas works better, and your whole digestive system works better.
Years ago for Barton, we worked with Jerry Mathers for a little bit, and he had lost weight. And I remember him saying that one of the things he did, and he actually had a catering company, but is that he savored the first few bites, because your taste buds have like those, that's the when you enjoy food the most. If you're not digesting or eating slowly, then you actually lose taste in your mouth. So try it next time. Like, enjoy your first few bites and then notice if you still have flavor 10 bites in. And he would say, no, you don't. Just enjoy your first few bites.
That's a good point. I used to, when I was a scoutmaster, there's something else you didn't know.
This is getting ridiculous. Now I just don't believe you.
I would bring Skittles, and we would play a game called the Skittles game. And I would give the kids a Skittle, but they couldn't look at it. And they had to guess what the color was by the taste, by the flavor. Nobody ever got past 4. They could not guess after 4. So you're right, Cheryl. When you first start, the flavor's there. And then the second one, it's less. And the third one, it's less. And by the fourth one, almost nobody can get it. No matter what the difference in flavor is.
Interesting. Speaking of enjoying things, another thing that is a good strategy to avoid stress is to focus on the company that you're with. And sometimes I know that can be difficult, like to just say that in a statement and tell you to enjoy the people that you're with isn't always easy. We all know how that goes. But I think it is good to remember the reason that you are together. So for someone had commented in here too, he said, I'm Ukrainian and Christmas Eve is more important to us. And let me tell you, there's probably not much that is on our program. I look at it as the one time a year that I remember that this is the celebrating Christ's birth. This is a time for joy. Why get stressed? Next day, you can go back to normal. Exactly. But remembering why you're gathering, remembering who you're gathering with, and just really focusing on that, I think can help to reduce some stress. But any other techniques you guys have in mind for people?
I was reading a book recently, and the focusing on others and looking at how can I help or help this person enjoy their time instead of am I enjoying my time, kind of thing. It is very helpful. The other thing was about eating. It's just another meal. It doesn't have to be. I mean, don't think of it like, oh, I have to engorge myself. I have to eat a ton. I have to get one of everything. No, it's just another meal. It's okay. Whatever it is, yes, it's very tasty. Takes small amounts of whatever, but it's just another meal. Tomorrow you're going to have more meals, right? And there's no end to that. Well, there is an end eventually, but
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to ask, what would you say to those who overindulge, or they just enjoy everything on the plate, everything that has to offer, all the sweets? What do you tell them about overeating after the fact?
There was a book called Fast, Feast, Repeat. Jen Stevens wrote it, and she has some really good points in there. And that is, you know what? When you overindulge, just, you know what? You enjoyed that, enjoy it, and lay down and digest it all and everything, and then fast for a little while. In fact, that's what I do. If I overeat, if I don't know, I'm not thinking about it, and because I'll just keep eating if there's food around. And if I eat too much, then I'll just not eat the next day. It's really easy.
I like that idea too, because I think sometimes we can let food consume our thoughts. And then it's almost like you've put it up there as an idol where you're either mad at it or you love it. And every single food is either good or bad, and then that just consumes all of your thoughts. And so I like the idea of just saying, okay, I'm just going to enjoy it. Not that you should do that every time, but then I'm going to fast. So I really like that. That's a good idea. It's not, you're not going to do that every day. You're not going to eat like that every day. Genevieve says, what is the name of the book and the author who wrote the book about breathing? I'm wondering if that's Breath by Nestor that Dr. Saunders
Yeah, Breath by Nestor. Yeah.
And she said, I believe that was about stress also.
James Nestor. Yeah, he does talk about stress in there, how breathing, how important breath is for stress, and how important breathing through your nose is for reducing stress. I was amazed by that. I could not imagine when somebody told me, oh, read this book, Breath by James Nestor. I was like, oh my gosh, really? A book about breathing? How I couldn't think of anything more boring that I didn't want to read. And then when I read it, I was like, wow, I learned a lot. It was great.
That is funny. We have a lot of people on our team, my husband including, who uses a cold plunge, and that primarily he uses for stress relief. I realize not everyone's going to be excited about that, but we've mentioned Wim Hof, and Dr. Saunders, I think, has even read some of his stuff. He has videos on YouTube, people going up in the mountains, walking up snowy mountains in blizzards, pretty much naked. And
with shorts on.
Yes, not quite naked, but the benefits of that. And so I feel like there are more conversations about stress and mental health now more than there ever were. There are a lot of options that people are trying. There are meditation apps. There are Calm is an app that you can download to help you just de-stress. There's so many options out there. I just would encourage you to really look and see what works for you. And hopefully this is giving you some ideas. We're going to read through some more of these questions here. Roy said, for a time I couldn't sleep because of the pain of the loss of my wife to stuff that was going around. Remember that virus. But after about a year of that distress, I stopped staying up all night and day sleeping. It took a while to break that habit, but once I did it by making myself get on the 6-10 cycle. Then I noticed that my desire to live improved, and I regained life pursuits that are healthy, lost weight, and balanced my life and health.
Ooh, wow, Roy, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm going to send that to our team.
Yeah.
That was powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to share that to our team here. Julie said, I used a seasoned sale Lowry's seasoning salt that has potassium in it. And someone said, how much potassium do you need?
Well, 4,000 milligrams a day is kind of the recommended minimum amount. And
that's not sodium though. Sodium.
No. Yeah, sodium. They also recommend 4,000.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Good to know. Let's see. Julie says, I also have pink salt from the state of Utah. I know I purify my water, and they did tell me I have no minerals in it. So how do I get more or enough minerals without having it in my water?
You could take a mineral supplement. Most of it comes from food anyway. Making sure you get magnesium. Magnesium's the one that's hard to get because you have to have whole grains, whole foods, green vegetables. Anything green has magnesium in it. And anything that grows, like seeds and nuts and grains and all that stuff, has magnesium in it. So those are that would be the main one. That's what the one they found in the Israel study.
Someone had said it's nice to know that someone else is left at the table. I end up at the table by myself too. Oh, that's good.
Esther says, I've been pretty stressed lately, and I've just been having to stop and breathe, and sticking to the gym schedule, even when I'm busy, has been helping. Making the gym a priority has been a big game changer.
Yeah.
Let's see. Some people get upset if you don't eat a lot of food that they've made. I have found that if I say I have a bit of an upset stomach, then it makes it okay. That's a good way to get out of it.
Whatever works.
Esther also said that Just Breathe by Dan Brule is good too. So that's Brule. Okay, that's good to know. And Esther, if you guys don't know, Esther is on our team, and we've done some live breathwork sessions. In fact, if you go to our YouTube channel, which you can find by going to bartonwebinar.com, you will find a link to a webinar that we did on stress, I think is what it was. And she did a breathwork session with us, maybe a 5-minute session, I suppose. But she talked about it and the benefits of it, why you're doing it, and all that stuff too.
I think the video is about 20 minutes long. The breathwork session is about 5. I actually do it quite a lot. Thank you, Esther.
Yes, it's very helpful, very good. And when we get together with Esther, she usually leads us in some breathwork sessions, so very fun. In fact, probably see you next week, Esther. Okay, and that reminds me, next week we will not have a webinar because our team will be all together. So all webinars are canceled for next week. We will be doing team building stuff. We will be talking about you guys and taking into consideration all the things that you have messaged us about, what you'd love to see more of, what you are loving, what your struggles have been while you're trying to get healthy. And we're going to just be getting together and chatting about those things, and probably having some fun too. We'll see. But anyway, I think that is most of our questions. Oh, Ronnie said that she's had surgery in both eyes. I try to use sunglasses whenever I'm outside. Would it be harmful for me to take off my sunglasses?
No, not necessarily. The type, I don't know what kind of surgery you had, but if you have enough antioxidants, then your eyes are protected from, there's a lot of oxidation that happens in your eyes, all the light coming in your eyes. But high levels of antioxidants protect your eyes from that. And one of the problems with the sunglasses is that there's a certain wavelength of light that is telling your body that it's daytime and that you should be awake and active. And if it filters out that particular wavelength, the blue blockers, for example, that block out the blue, those inhibit those particular photoreceptors. And then you don't get the really good circadian rhythm that you should get from the sunshine. So it's a good idea, at least for a little while, 20 minutes or an hour or so, depending on how long you're out in the sun, to not wear the sunglasses.
Okay, I think that's it for today.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saunders. We'll see you next week. Actually, in person, I'll get to see you.
All right, see you next week.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. We will be back in 2 weeks. And if you want to be a part of our fixed blood sugar webinar, that is on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Central. That's another really good webinar where Dr. Saunders comes on, shares some ideas about keeping your blood sugar in check. Very high number of people, especially here in the United States, who are pre-diabetic. And so even if you aren't diagnosed as someone with type 2, it would still be very beneficial for you to hear what is recommended so that you don't end up going that way. And probably you have a loved one who has type 2, and it's invite them to the webinar. There's so much good information. Again, it's free, and you all know and love Dr. Saunders' teaching, so just highly recommend that. But that's it for us today. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. And Cheryl, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next week in person too.
Yay!
So fun. All right, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.